Hello!
Ciao!
It's week 2 of our Moonlight Magic Mystery Crochet Along, and we are back with a brand new part.
We hope your crescent moons from last week are looking great and the clouds are extra fluffy.
Keep sharing your works in progress with us. We are very curious to see them all.
This week we are using yellow and black yarns, the smaller crochet hooks and also toy stuffing, tapestry needle and a tiny bit of lilac. Have you guessed what we are making?
We are making a black cat. Meow. It's the perfect mascot for the spooky season.
Yes, it is. But do check what hook size will work best with the black yarn. Remember, we are looking for a firm texture and neat, even stitches.
When we work with black yarn, it can be quite difficult to see the stitches. Do we have any tips on what we can try?
Of course. Make sure to work in a well-lit area and take your time to work very slowly.
And if you have to work late at night, it always helps to use an extra craft light.
Yeah, right. This part has some unusual shaping, and keeping accurate stitch count will be very important.
Remember, mark your rounds the same way as we did before, with a stitch marker or using a running yarn tail.
So let's grab our yarns and crochet hooks and begin.
We will start with the yellow and make a pair of big eyes. So, let's get crafting!
So, let's start working on our big yellow eyes. We will start with plain yellow and a 2mm or 2.5mm hook. Chain 7 stitches and close the round with a slip stitch to make a ring. Next round, work 7 single crochet stitches, 1 for each chain. Now this doesn't look like an eye just yet. The section we are making at first will be running through the center of the eye, and it will help the eye turn. From round 2 to round 8, we are working with the wrong side of the work on the outside. We chose to do it this way because the right side of the work is more smooth than the wrong side, and that's very important when you're making a moving element of our cat. Keep working with the wrong side of the work on the outside, taking care to place your hook under both top loops every time you make a new stitch. When working in such small circumference, it's very hard to mark the rounds, so the best thing is to just count them in your head and mark them on a piece of paper. Carry on working with the wrong side out until round 8 is complete. Remember, the wrong side needs to be on the outside of the work. If you do notice at this point that the outside of the work is looking suspiciously smooth and is in fact the right side out, now is the time to turn it inside out so the wrong side is showing. But this is a little bit tricky to do because of such small circumference. It might be better to just undo and start again. Let's carry on work with round 9, where we're making 7 increases in back loops only. And we're starting the eye proper. So, work 2 single crochets into each stitch. You can count them as you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. I know I like to. After this, the shape will increase to make us sphere-like shape of the eye, and the tube will sit in the middle. Remember to check your stitch count as you go, and now we can start using a stitch marker. We are now at the end of round 18. Can you see how the tube now sits inside this bowl? Now is the perfect time to add a little bit of stuffing. When we're adding the stuffing to this piece, it's very important that we don't compress the middle tube. So you can use a pencil or a thick bamboo skewer and place it into the center. This will keep us from overstuffing the eye. Carefully start adding the stuffing all around the shape. Push it in with a chopstick or a pencil, or just use your fingers. We are looking for firm eyeballs, but not overstuffed. Keep an eye on the texture of the fabric. It should be smooth, but not stretched. Keep adding the stuffing until you are happy with the shape. Adding stuffing in small increments is better than pushing a whole lot of it at once. It gives us more control over the shape. There, that's looking very nice and firm. Now we can do some decreases and close the eye. So, let's work invisible decreases in round 19. You can use your preferred decrease method, but for this one we used invisible decreases and we worked them like this. Pick up 2 front loops of the stitches you're decreasing with the hook, yarn over, pull through the 2 front loops, yarn over, and pull through both loops on hook. Use the starting yarn tail to help the tube on the inside stay in place. We want the starting chain 7 to match up with the last round of the eye. After you've worked the 7 decreases and the last round is complete, you can cut the yarn and fasten it off, and leave a little tail for sewing. Thread your yarn tail onto a tapestry needle and very carefully sew together the starting chain and the last round. For this part, it's very important that the opening stays opened. If it helps, you can put the skewer back in to make sure it doesn't close up. These stitches will be not visible, so they don't have to be pretty, they just have to securely close the shape. Take your time with this bit. It's better to do it right than to fuss and undo things later. Weave in the yarn tails once all of the stitches are joined together. Then hide the extra yarn inside the eyeball. Cut your extra yarn and repeat the weaving in with the starting tail. And now we have a nice, firm, but squishy eyeball. Now to finish the eyes, we have just one more thing to do. For this, we will need a tail of black yarn and a tapestry needle. Thread the yarn through and add a knot at the end. Then choose which way up you would like your eye to face. We will embroider the eye's pupil over rounds 10 and 18 using long vertical stitches. For this bit, it's important not to pull on the threads too much. We don't want to squish the shape. The stitches should lie flat on top of the eye. When adding these stitches, it's very important that you don't go into the central tube. We always want to keep that tube completely free for now. So make around 4 or 5 stitches until you're happy with the size of your pupil, and then neaten up the threads so they are sitting very neatly next to each other. When you are happy with the size of your pupil and there is no yellow poking out through the strands of the black, you can weave in the black yarn tail. And you can see the tube is still open and free. And there you have it. A nice spooky eye. And here is a set of 2 spooky, big, yellow eyes. Now, if you have a plastic drinking straw hiding in the kitchen drawer somewhere, you can add a tiny bit of it into the center of each eye to help the process move even more smoothly later, though this is an optional step. Let's set the eyes aside and move on to the next pattern piece.
And there you have it, 2 big yellow eyes. Let's set them aside and start making the head.
For this piece, we chose a mercerized yarn to add a bit of shine to the finished piece.
Now this part has some Very unusual shaping, so do take care to check the stitch count as you go. It can make a huge difference to the final piece.
Let's start from the very beginning.
Let's start the head with the black mercerized yarn and the smaller hook. We recommend a 2 to 2.5 mm hook when working with this yarn, but remember to check your gauge with a little switch. We start with 7 single crochet stitches worked into a magic ring. Use your preferred magic ring method for this one. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, the cat's head has some irregular increases and decreases to achieve the shape. It's very important to follow the pattern closely and track your rounds with a stitch marker or a yarn tail. With really dark colors, it can be hard to see the individual stitches, but sitting in a well-lit area will help. By the end of round 8, you should start to see how the nose and head are starting to take shape. The most of the increases are sitting on the cheeks. This is where the eye sockets will go. The rounds always start in the center of the cat's head. From round 9 on, the rounds will shape the head at the same time as the eye sockets. This is the trickiest part of this piece. Now, this part will look very strange at first, but follow the increases and decreases carefully and you will see how the fabric is starting to expand to make room for our eyes. So as you work around the shape, the stitches will form the first eye socket, then the chin of the cat's head, and back around to the second socket, always ending in between the eyes. Let's start round 9 with 3 single crochets. Then work 3 single crochets in next stitch. This is a double increase and it's a little crowded when working at this gauge. Next, work 1 single crochet. Do check that it's in the right place. The stitch that follows the double increase likes to hide underneath it. Next, work 5 regular increases, 2 single crochets in each stitch. Add 1 single crochet, and 3 single crochets in next stitch. Notice how wavy the fabric is. There are a lot of increases packed into a very small space. These extra stitches will shape the eye sockets. Next, work 22 single crochets along the chin. Once that is complete, it's time to make the next eye socket, the same way as we did before. So work 3 single crochets in next stitch, then 1 single crochet, then increase 5 times, work 1 single crochet, and 3 single crochets in next stitch. And the last 3 single crochet stitches complete this round. Let's add the stitch marker back into the last stitch. This round sets up the edges of the eye sockets and the jaw, and over the next few rounds, the shape will grow bigger and bigger to make plenty of room for our eyes. Always check your stitch count. So, by the end of round 23, your cat's head will look like this. How about that intense crochet shaping? Now you can see the eye sockets. Try pushing them down and see what the shape does. Doesn't it look strange? On the sample, we used a thin sewing thread to mark the rounds as well as the stitch marker, just to be extra sure we don't lose our place. You can really notice how the start of the round is sitting in the middle of the cat's forehead. So the front of the head is shaped. And now it's time to shape the back. There is a bit of a gap on the side of the eye, so in the next few rounds there are some taller stitches to help close these gaps. Let's carry on with round 24. First, make 18 single crochet stitches. After the 18 stitches are complete, increase the next stitch and invisible decrease the next 2. This will continue shaping our fabric. Next, let's add 3 half double crochets on the side of the eye socket to help close up this gap. One, two, and 3. You can work these stitches quite tight. Next, work an invisible decrease and an increase. After all, it's all about symmetry. Then, work 46 single crochets all along the jaw. The next rounds will continue to even out the fabric, but you should already be able to see how the sides are becoming smoother. By the end of round 31, you should have even sides and the head shape should be starting to decrease on the back. And the eye sockets are fully formed. Now, we found it easier to work on the back of the head with the eye sockets popped out on the outside, but you can push them in if you prefer to. Notice how the 3 single crochet increases are shaping the eye sockets. They are sitting on the edges of the socket, creating a natural fold in the fabric. You can encourage it to take the shape firmer by pressing on it with your fingers too. These increases are sitting all around the eye. So, now is a really good time to fix the eyes in place before we start adding any stuffing to the head. To start, let's pop the eyes into the sockets. Don't worry if the fabric of the head is bunching up. Once we add stuffing, the shape will even itself out. To attach the eye, we will need to pass the needle through the bottom of the socket and into the central tube of the eye and out into the top of the socket. This is a little bit of a trial and error process. To make sure the eyes are in the right place, we can use a bamboo skewer or a big needle to start off. So, put the eye in and turn the work to the inside of the head. and then pass the skewer through the socket and into the center of the eye, and out the other side. Very grisly stuff. It will look something like this. You can check that the eye can turn on a skewer. And that the eye doesn't sit too close to the eyebrow. If it looks like it's too close, you can adjust where the skewer or needle goes through the top of the socket. Just move it by a round or two to the back. That looks okay. Repeat with the second eye. So, if we are happy with the position, it's time to use needle and thread and go through the same place as the skewer. Use a big tapestry needle. Turn the work to the back. And use the skewer as a guide to direct your needle. If you tilt the eye forward, you can see that the central thread is running through the inner tube. Tie a little bow on the inside for now, and let's repeat the process with the other eye. Now, let's try out the eyes. They should turn side to side, changing where the cat looks. Compare the two and check that they're in roughly the same position inside each of the sockets. And if you like the position, it's time to sew them in place. So, undo your knots and put the yarn back on the needle. And add a little stitch at the top of the eye to secure one end. Then go back into the central tube of the eye . And back into the bottom of the socket, going through the same place as the other yarn tail. Take care when you're going through the tube. And tilt the eye to help you see better. We don't want to catch any of the fabric. Repeat this one more time so it's extra secure. Going through the bottom into the tube. And out of the top, and then back the other way. Take your time with this step. The eye won't move so well if the inner tube has been caught on the thread. Once both starting and ending yarn tails are in the same place, you can tie the two together into a strong knot. Then either trim the ends or tuck them into the head. Repeat this step with the other eye. Now it's starting to look like a cat. By the end of round 38, the shape will look like this. Let's just complete this round. It's the time to pause work and add toy stuffing. Notice how the head shape is quite wide and flat. This way it will sit better in overall composition. The face may look a little crumpled now, but once we add stuffing all around the eyes and nose, it will even itself out. The stuffing will help to fix the eye sockets in place and reinforce our crochet shaping. So, let's start slowly filling the head, first all around the eyes, pushing it right into the edges. Keep an eye on the face as you add more stuffing to the nose and the head. Everything will start to fill out. You can use a pencil or the back of a crochet hook to push the stuffing in deeper if it helps you. Add the stuffing in small bits. You should be able to see which areas need more stuffing. If a section looks a bit deflated, add a little bit more. The stuffing will help our crochet shaping open up and create our very unusual shape head. Encourage the stitches to straighten out and fill. Definitely needs a little bit more stuffing under that bit. So take a small bit and push it into the head. Sometimes a pencil helps get the stuffing into the right places. Check that the eyes are working. Isn't it fun? With this cotton, you don't need to be too worried about being gentle. It should hold its shape after you've stuffed it. Once you are happy with the amount of stuffing and the shape is filled out, but still quite flat at the back, you can check that the eyes are fitting well and can still rotate. We can start to close up the back of the head. There are still 36 stitches left to close. Don't be afraid to pull on the shape to make the eyes fit better. As you complete the decreases of the last few rounds, you can add a little bit more stuffing on top. At the end of round 43, all that's left to do is to close the end. Thread the yarn tail through the needle and pick up the remaining front loops. Pull on the yarn tail so the stitches are tight, and then tuck the needle into the center of the end round. Then we weave the ends. You can check that your end round is sitting very flat against the fabric. Trim the excess thread. And next, we need to add a little lilac nose. Use a long tail of lilac yarn and the tapestry needle and thread it through from the bottom of the head up to the space between rounds 2 and 3. Aim for the center of the piece. The nose will sit over rounds 1 and 2 in a triangle shape. Start embroidering going from the center and out, building the stitches in layers and filling out the shape. The more stitches you add, the puffier the little nose will be. You can use the tip of the needle to make the stitches lie flatter. When your nose is done, push the yarn tail into the fabric and trim the extra yarn. Then you can cut a fresh yarn tail for the mouth. Working with slightly shorter strands of yarn is easier than navigating the extra long yarn tails, so we prefer to do it in 2 sections. So with the fresh bit of yarn for the mouth, let's thread it through the needle. And go in again from the base of the head to the bottom of the nose triangle. Make 1 long stitch over the 2 rounds below the nose. Of course, you can make it longer if you want to. This will mark the center of the smile. Then, make a fly stitch on either side to create the smile shape. If you would like a wider smile, you can add a short little extra stitch above the fly stitch to extend the curve further. Experiment to see what works best for your cat. Repeat on the other side. Doesn't that cat look really cheeky already? So, once the smile is in place, you can neaten up the stitches with the tip of a needle and pick off any little bits of toy stuff in that got pulled up with the thread. There's always some extra fluff. Then, secure the yarn at the base of the head and weave it in so it's hidden into the main fabric. And the head is done.
Now we have made a cat head. Isn't he cute with that little lilac nose?
Yes, it is. Now let's make the ears.
So here we have 2 ears. The ears will look like little cones, worked from the tip and flaring it out. You can fold them so that the yarn tail sits in the corner.
2 ears are done, but there is still one last piece we need to make before we can say this part is complete.
In fact, we are going to make the neck insert.
The last part of our puzzle is the neck insert, and it will look like a little tube. It's flat at the top and curved on the bottom. The ridge is created by working around and back loops only. Leave a long yarn tail for sewing when fastening off all of these elements.
And just like that, we have completed the second part of our mystery. You should have a cat's head with 2 yellow eyes, 2 ears, and 1 neck insert.
Come back next week to work on a different section of the mystery pattern. We will use our yarn with some extra sparkle to make something that goes with the crescent moon, the one we made last week.
And of course, remember to tag us online if you're sharing your works on Instagram or on Facebook or any other social media platform, and always use the hashtag MoonlightMagicCal when you post. We would really love to see your progress. Happy spooky crafting!
Bye!
Bye!
So, by the end of this part, you will have a completed cat head with an embroidered nose, 2 ears, and a neck insert. We won't assemble anything just yet, so set them aside until later in our mystery crochet along.